Time for a free financial review. And you don't often get something for free every day. So, how does the process work and why would you want a full financial review? What are the benefits of it? Well, Aidan O'Neill is here, as is Siobhan Conroy, who's Business Development Manager in Tullamore Credit Union. Aidan is working on their behalf. Guys, good morning.
Morning. How are you, Will?
I'm very well, thank you. Why have a full financial review? What possibly could be the benefit of that experience?
I suppose the benefit of financial review, Will, is to stop the clock a little bit, take a bit of time to look at your finances. We're all very busy in life at the moment. We've all sorts of attractions and distractions in our lives with social media and everything else. But I suppose it's very important that people take a little bit of time to look at their income, look at their expenditure, and see how much of a surplus they've got left over at the end of every month. If they do the financial review with ourselves in the credit union, in the financial planning process, they'll identify what's left over after all the bills are paid. And what we do is we take a careful look at how much is left over, and we help them decide what's important to them in terms of their planning. So a short-term box, medium-term box, and a long-term box, to make sure that there's money going into each of those boxes, to make sure that all the areas are looked after.
What, for instance, might those boxes contain? I mean, short term, you've got the immediate bills.
Yeah.
Medium term, maybe planning for birthdays, holidays, Christmas. Long term?
Yeah, well, I'd say the short-term box is probably your credit union account or your bank account, where you've got money in it to pay your bills and look after things like perhaps a washing machine breaking down or something happening with a car, that you have money there close to hand. Medium term is probably a little bit longer. Medium term is probably maybe educational savings for children. It could be a couple saving for deposit on a home, or it could be saving for a wedding. 5 to 7 years typically, and there's policies and investment plans you can put in place to get some growth.
It's amazing to me that is long term. You're saying medium term. So what is long term?
Long term then is your pension, and I suppose the younger you can start a pension and make some contribution to a pension, the better. A lot of people switch off, and I laughed when you were saying earlier on about financial review being a bit like going to the dentist. We make it as easy as we possibly can for people, and it's a friendly, approach where we send the forms to people initially before they come in, so they have a sense of preparation. They know what they're going to be asked. They're not coming in cold to it, and so we help them complete that form. On the pension side of it, as you just remarked, I suppose that the pension it's so important to get started early. You get tax relief for each contribution you make into a pension, which a lot of people don't realize. So by being frugal and putting money aside for your retirement, you're actually benefiting from paying lower tax as well. So
we're coming into a new regime soon, auto enrollment, and it's going to be foremost in people's thoughts. The challenge, of course, is you're making a sacrifice of money now so that you have it at some point down the road.
Yeah, it is. Auto-enrollment is something that's been talked about for a long time, and I wouldn't be holding my breath on it coming in quite as quickly as the government have set out. I think there's great opportunities for people now to start pensions without waiting for the auto-enrollment gun to shoot off. There's been some changes in legislation recently, just before Christmas, in the Finance Act, which makes it much more easy for employers to put pensions in place. Small to medium-sized employers, from that point of view, whereby they can take some profits out of their company for themselves, for their directors, for their employees as well, in the form of a PRSA. So that's a whole area which there's a huge amount of activity on at the moment. People are looking at it, and I would suggest that if you're an employer out there driving your car, listening in your workplace this morning, engage with us. We'll have a look at that for you and see how it suits your organization.
Now, you say it's not like a trip to the dentist. You try to make this process painless. What is involved?
So what's involved is essentially we'll send you an email by way of preparation, or post a document out to you, a financial review document. It's a really easy document with your own personal details. You look at your employment status, your income, your partner's income if you have a partner, and what benefits they currently have in place by way of life cover. Life cover is a policy that pays out on death if you die. And it would surprise you how many people in Ireland don't have that level of cover in place. It's a basic financial requirement. And part of the financial planning service that we provide is somebody might, for example, want to come in and speak to us about savings or an investment or a pension. But we might identify as part of the process that they don't have any life cover, and maybe have young children or a partner who would be financially vulnerable. And so the first approach would be to look at life cover and make sure they have the appropriate level of cover in place.
You're hitting a nerve there. I don't have any personally.
Yeah.
It just shows you, and you'd be well informed, and yet you know you should have it, and you don't. So we can expect to see you in with it.
First in
Do you
the
want a
queue.
job in sales? No, but again, it's that sacrifice of the money now to have that nest egg, or at least that insurance down the road. And
Yeah.
I wonder, is that why you mentioned many people don't have that life cover in place? What's the barrier, or what's the hesitation?
I think the hesitation is for a lot of people that don't want to think about morbid thoughts, so they don't like to think about death or their own mortality, or they don't like to think of a situation where they might have an illness. And income protection would be fundamentally important as well. On the back of our conversation about life cover there, income protection is something that so many people don't have. And as I said to people so many times, if you had a blue or a pink machine in the corner that was providing you with your wages every week or every month, you'd insure that machine, because it would be like an ATM machine handing you out a lot of money. You should insure that machine, and that machine is you, you know. So income protection is something that can give you up to 75% of your current income, and give you that protection right up until your retirement age. Like a pension, there's tax relief on it as well. And very many people don't have that, and it's a bedrock of the financial planning advice we'd be giving people as well.
How affordable is it?
It is affordable. Well, I mean, look, if you go for the top level of cover, depending on your salary, it can be expensive, but there's always a step back position that you take something that's affordable. And I always say it's better to have some cover than none. And it's tax efficient, so you can get tax credits for the premiums you pay, like with a pension too. So
does it matter what age you are? You know, element of risk, I assume, is factored.
Yeah, it does. So the older you are, and maybe the type of occupation you work at has a factor for the risk and the premiums. But like you said, there's always a way of providing some level of cover, and it's better to have some than none. And it's better to have the conversation. And like I said at the outset, you know, people are very busy at the moment. We're finding we're doing a blend of video calls or face-to-face meetings. My preference is that somebody comes in and takes a bit of time away from their stress of their home or their employment, sit down and maybe have a coffee before or after the meeting. Just give themselves a little bit of time, because financial well-being is so important, and it's something that isn't spoken about at all, really. And I think if you have some financial well-being, it's one little voice less in your head, in the back of your head, that you're not worrying about things. If you have a financial planner and a financial plan, you'll begin to feel more comfortable and good about things that you have control.
We got to the point where you're asking those basic questions: have you the life cover, the income protection, and so on. Where does it go after that, and how technical does the conversation become?
Well, we don't make it technical. Once we've identified what the surplus is, and we identify what the most pressing financial requirements are for that person. So it could be, in your case, you need life cover or you need income protection cover. What we do is we have agencies with all of the major life companies, and so we'll be able to give quotations and look for the most appropriate cover and the most appropriate price. And it's quite an easy scenario. We take away our notes, research the market, come back to somebody within a couple of days and give them the plan that they need. And it's decision time then at that stage for the member. They can decide if they want to or not.
But let's say you mentioned the medium term objective, having that nest egg for the children's college fund. If that's just going into a current account, especially in times of inflation, the buying power diminishes. So do you give advice on maybe consider this investment or that investment?
Absolutely. Yeah. So if it's somebody that's come to speak to us about an investment, and we have enough information to be able to provide advice correctly, we'll do a personalized risk profile report with them to identify their level of risk and make sure that we select something that's appropriate. But you're quite right. The deposit rates that are out there at the moment are problematic. They're not giving a return, and inflation is rising. So it means the value of your money is falling behind by sitting static. So there are investments you can invest in appropriate to your risk level that will provide you with growth and keep yourself ahead of that curve. And it's so important because we work hard for our money. It's to get our money working for us in a risk appropriate fashion. Yeah.
There are questions from listeners which I'm going to throw at you in just a moment. But Siobhan, how difficult is it to get an appointment with this guy?
It's very straightforward, Will. The whole reason that we brought Aidan in to work with us is that we had quite a number of inquiries from members about some of the products that he can do. And it's better to have someone who's fully qualified and fully up to date with all that type of information. So Aidan started with us in January, and he's in our office every Friday, and he is amenable to coming on another day if that's what suits a member. But we're identified Friday as the day that suits sort of both of us. Obviously, we're aware that a lot of members are working Monday to Friday, so I will strong arm him into a Saturday appointment if need be, and he's okay with that. But as he was saying, you know, a lot of the information he can send by email, and following COVID, we were just discussing this ourselves, Aidan and I, that a lot of people are happy to get their information by email, have a look at it, sort of prep themselves, and then come on for the face-to-face appointment. And we were only talking about this in the car on the way out, actually, that face-to-face, when it comes to finances, it is a lot easier. I mean, you have to be able to speak in layman's terms. Aidan is explaining something to me. He can see by my face whether I'm following what he's saying, if I understand, if he can move along quicker or slower, if he needs to go back. And then as a member, then you're also more comfortable asking a question if someone is sitting in front of you than trying to type it out and put it into that language. So we're finding we're very busy, to be fair now. We really are. And it's going really well. So, and that's why we're here, because we want more people coming in. As a credit union, we've invested a lot of time and a lot of money in having Aidan working with us. So we need to get that return. So we need as many members as we can coming in to meet with them and to get the benefit of the knowledge that he has, you know, that we don't have in the office.
With us at the moment, Aidan O'Neill, who is a senior financial advisor from Era Financial, and he's here on behalf of Tullamore Credit Union, as is Siobhan Conroy, who's in charge of business development with Tullamore Credit Union. Interesting take on life insurance. So a caller asks, how wise is it to have life cover if you do not have any dependents?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Well, I suppose if you don't have any dependents, there may actually be no need to have life cover, because life cover pays out ultimately when you die, and it's the people that are left behind that are looked after financially by it. So you may have a favourite niece or nephew, or you may have, you know, a charitable organisation or something in your will that you want to leave some money to. Outside of that, you know, you may not need life cover. Now, if there are benefits attached to it, like serious illness cover, you know, maybe personal accident cover or hospitalisation cash, then maybe it's worth holding on to. But it might be no harm to engage with that person and give them some advice. But yeah, if there are no dependents and no other additional benefits, they may not need it. Yeah.
Maureen in Mount Mellick, backing up what you're saying, that she, for instance, took out funeral cover with An Post. Her husband died and she was very glad to have the cover. The funeral bill was paid within a month, and she continues to pay cover for herself and never skimp on these payments, is her advice. Now, here's a self-employed individual who has 10 employees, doesn't have a pension, neither does his employees. What steps should he take?
I'd invite that member to come into us in Tullamore Credit Union, and we'll have a chat with him, identify, you know, the size and scale of the organisation. Say there's 10 employees, look at their salary levels. But even thinking straight away, the recent pension legislation changes that happened in the Finance Act have made the PRSA the product of choice for organisations like that. So they can pay for the employee and for themselves through salary deduction facility. And it's a great situation where the employer-employee in tandem can make contributions into a pension. That pension arrangement is the staff member's pension to take with them if they were ever to leave. And it's so hard to recruit and retain staff now that if an employer provides that kind of a pension, it's a great plus, and it's an extra string to their bow. So, yeah.
Next. My wife and I are in our early 40s. We have 3 young children and are in the process of changing house. I am the sole income earner. What do I need to know?
So we'd see a lot of this. It's so important that financial review is completed and we identify all that's going on there in terms of income. But straight away, the important things would be that himself and his wife both have life cover to protect their young children in case of the worst. And I suppose the next thing I would think of would be for this gentleman to have income protection, to make sure that if he was ill or disabled in some way and wasn't able to earn, that there would be a continuity of earnings to look after all of the bills that might come in. And certainly there would be a conversation needing to be had about the children's education funding for medium term, and perhaps a pension as well, depending on whether he has a pension in place or not. So that would be
That's the ideal
member, and
want.
we've seen this. We've been dealing with people like this, and that's exactly the type of person we're hoping to sit down with.
The caller was on a tracker mortgage. They've since moved to a variable rate, and variable rates are now, in this case, at 4.5%. So they're wondering, should they fix? Do you have a take on that, Siobhan?
Well, I think if you have a mortgage of 54,000 euros, definitely at this point, you could certainly be coming into us for us to take over that. As you know, Will, from previous interviews that we've done, we can do mortgages up to 350,000 euros, but that doesn't mean that we're not welcoming people with 54,000 euros. We have a number of products, and if that member is interested in fixing their rate, we've just launched that, and that rate is 4.2%. And we can put it over up to 25 years. So obviously at 54,000, you wouldn't be putting it over that length of time.
No. I neglected to mention, in addition to the 54,000, the current mortgage is due to expire in 2029.
Yeah,
so
so
they obviously see this as a short-term
and
commitment.
we'll be happy to facilitate that. Obviously, we have Aidan then working with us, so your life cover can be sorted. So we certainly be interested in talking to that member if they want to come into us.
The caller asks about the cap on savings within the credit union. Is it 20,000 euro? And do I have options if I wish to save more? Nice dilemma to have, but what's the answer?
Well, I'll answer that one. Every credit union is different and they operate independently of one another. So each credit union can decide if they want to put a cap on savings, and there are lots of credit unions locally who have done that. We haven't done that in Tullamore. The amount that we allow a member to have is 100,000 euros. And we have any amount of people with 100,000 euros, which is testament to their savings plans that they obviously put in place themselves.
I was about to say, Tullamore is doing well.
Yeah, we have lots of money to lend, lots of money that has been saved, and that is the money that we lend out, and that's why we can be so successful. So we don't have a cap, thankfully.
Okay.
And I hope to reach 100,000 euros at some point.
That's the plan, Siobhan. And I suppose if I can just come in on something in terms of the credit union and the ethos and just the vibe that's in the place. It's lovely to come into a bustling, busy office with so many cashiers there, so many people in the place. And I think that's what's so different for the credit union if you compare it to your high street bank, where the banks are unfortunately scaling down and reducing the people that are evident out there. Credit union are so different, and there's such a members service kind of mentality and ethos in it, and to be part of that and be providing services from Era Financial within that organization is great, because we want to see people, and that's a very different message, but we want to see people physically in there, and we're kind of asking people to take some time out and come in and use the financial planning service, because they'll benefit from it. It's nice to be having that human contact.
Just a final note from Brenda, who says she knows it's not your area, but she would encourage people, in addition to life cover, to make a will.
Yes.
These are the two most important things you need.
Yeah, part of our process in the financial review that we complete with each member, we would ask a question: have you a tax advisor? Have you made a will? Have you a solicitor? And in every conversation where I have with a member, be it over a mortgage protection policy or over an investment, I always ask that question. And if they say they haven't, I'd ask them, well, who arranged your mortgage? You have a solicitor there. Go and make your will. It's easy to do. And it's so important. Brady's absolutely right there, Brenda. Yeah.
Time is up, guys. Thank you very much for coming in to us.
Thanks for
And we will no doubt chat again. In the meantime, contact Tullamore Credit Union to make an appointment with Aidan O'Neill, who is a senior financial advisor from Era Financial. Also here, Siobhan Conroy.